We would like now to introduce our keynote speaker for today's program, Mark Schinnerer. He is the CEO of CARC Incorporated, which serves children and individuals with special needs here in Artesia and in Carlsbad. He's lived in Carlsbad for over 30 years and is an avid gardener. He has a passion for American history and has created several patriotic programs and has been called the Mr. Star Spangled Banner. Mark is the author of the award-winning book, The Success Grower, 8 Down-to-Earth Elements for Achieving Your Goals, and is a speaker, trainer, and coach for leadership, personal growth and development, and goal achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mark Schinnerer.
Have you ever realized when we sing the national anthem that we just sing a question? Oh, say, does that Star Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? It's just a question. We never sing the answer. In 1812, the United States went to war with Great Britain over who was going to control shipping on the seas. We did pretty well as a country fighting the British on the seas, but on land we were pretty bad at it, and they beat us a lot. And that battle raged on, that war raged on, and in 1814, the British decided they were going to attack Washington, D.C. And so, towards the end of August of 1814, they sailed up the Potomac to Washington, D.C., and the troops took off to attack the city. The American troops fled, ran away. President Madison had already left the city. He had taken the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States and made sure they were kept safe. His wife, Dolly Madison, she left later. Before she left, took an axe and chopped the frame off of a portrait of George Washington so it wouldn't be destroyed, and it still hangs in the White House today. The British captured Washington, D.C., and they set fire to the Capitol building and to the Executive Mansion and to other federal buildings in the city. And they celebrated and had a great time. And eventually, a storm came in and put out all the fires. Interesting side note, the Executive Mansion, where the president lived, was rebuilt. And in order to hide the scorch marks, it was painted white. And today we call it what? The White House, exactly. After they were done there, the British decided they were going to go attack Baltimore. Because Baltimore was the largest port on the eastern seaboard at the time, and they knew that if they could take Baltimore, they could split the country in two and control the country, and we would be finished. So they left Washington, D.C., and they sailed up to Baltimore Harbor. Defending Baltimore Harbor was a fort called Fort McHenry. Well, when they got into the harbor, they had captured a very old, loved physician who was ill, named Dr. William Beans, and the city folk loved him dearly and wanted him back. So they went and talked to a young attorney in Baltimore named Francis Scott Key and said, "Would you go negotiate the release of Dr. Beans for us?" See, he had been taken prisoner because he was being accused of torturing British soldiers who had been taken prisoner by the Americans. And so Francis Scott Key said, "Yes, I'll go." And so he went, and he took in his pocket some letters from those British prisoners saying, "No, the doctor did not abuse us. He did not torture us. He healed our wounds, and he bandaged our wounds." After this negotiation, the British captain agreed to release them and let them go, but he said, "But you have to wait. The bombardment of Fort McHenry is about to start, and I can't let you go and tell the Americans what we're going to do." So they had to wait. the bombardment started. And it lasted 25 hours. And as we sing in that first verse, they strained to see all night long if the flag flew. And when the bombs would explode in the air and the rockets would streak across the sky, they could catch a glimpse that the flag was still flying over the fort. And then before dawn, the bombardment stopped. It became very quiet. And the question was, what happened? Who won? And the British start to sail away. And in verse 1, so Francis Scott Key, he's standing there, he watches this whole thing take place. And being kind of an amateur poet, he takes one of those letters in his pocket and he turns it over and he starts writing 4 verses to a poem that today is called the Star Spangled Banner. He called it the Defense of Fort McHenry. We call it the Star Spangled Banner. And in the first verse, the old doctor is laying on the deck of the ship, and the bombardment has ended, and he's asking Francis Scott Key, can you see the flag? Can you see the flag? Because if the American flag was still flying, they knew that the Americans had won and we would survive as a country. But if the British flag was flying, we'd be finished. So the question is, can you see the flag? And so he wrote, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, or the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare and the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, can you see the Star Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? It's just a question. The second verse gives the answer. As dawn starts to come and it gets lighter in the sky and the fog and the smoke start to drift away from the harbor, they strain to see what flag is flying over the fort. And then they see it. It's the American flag. And Francis Scott Key then writes, on the shore dimly seen through the mist of the deep, where the foe's haughty host in dread silence reposes, what is that which the breeze or the towering steep, as it fitfully blows, half conceals, half discloses? Now it catches the gleam of the morning's first beam, in full glory reflected, now shines on the stream. 'Tis the Star Spangled Banner. Oh, long may it wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Well, the British are sailing away quietly. They've lost. Francis Scott Key then in verse 3 turns his attention to the British, the losers. What do we sometimes like to do with losers? We like to shout abuse at them, rag on them a bit. And the words are kind of hard to understand today. They meant more probably back then. But he then turns his attention and he kind of ragged on a bit. He said, and where is that band who so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and a battle's confusion would leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps' pollution. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. And then in verse 4. In verse 4, he turns to the soldiers who fought for the freedom of the country. And I believe Francis Scott Key was looking so far into the future, he was looking to even today. When he wrote the words, oh, thus be it ever, when free men shall stand between their loved home and the war's desolation, blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. then conquer we must, when our cause it is just. And this be our motto, and God is our trust. And the Star Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. The United States can only be the land of the free as long as we continue to be the home of the brave. The men and women who committed to protecting this country are the ones who help us enjoy the freedoms that we have today. 214 years ago, Francis Scott Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner. And the question that he posed in that, oh, say, does that Star Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Is still a pertinent question for today. So today, let's join together to honor these veterans who so bravely fought and stood up for this country so that we may be free. Thank you.
Once again, let's have a nice round of applause for Mark Schinnerer, who read a great speech for us today. Next up, let's welcome Dr. John Kennedy, who is going to do an introduction for our high school band.